Now, the next part of output and price decisions by the firm is to look at it step by step. So we talked about how you can get from the demand to the marginal revenue. And now let's see just how that is used. So just as with a perfect competition, a monopolist is only going to produce and sell a unit if it can profit from it. Okay, so that's the first thing they're going to look at. They're also going to evaluate at the margin, just like a firm in a perfectly competitive market. Now, unlike the case in the perfectly competitive market, though, they're going to produce the number of units that will yield the largest profit. All right, so they need to look at cost here as well. So let's break this down and look at an example. So let's say we have these circumstances. So we have price equals minus 2Q plus 12. That's going to be your demand. To get to the marginal revenue has the same intercept, 12, double the slope. Minus 2 times 2, 4. The total cost and the marginal cost are given as 4Q plus 2. Marginal cost is 4. Okay. So now, the way that a monopolist will sell the product, and they want to set the price. So what they're going to do is they're going to determine how many units they want to sell and set the price to make that happen. So the way that you get the price in a monopoly is you find what price people are willing to pay for those units. So for example, if they wanted to sell no units, well, you plug that into the demand, which is where you're going to get your prices from, because that's what people are willing to pay. And so if they want to sell none, you plug that in to the demand, and so you have minus 2 times 0 plus 12, price is 12. If they want to sell 1 unit, again, you plug it into your demand. Price equals minus 2 times 1, which is minus 2, plus 12 is going to be 10, and then 8, 6, 4, 2, and 0. Total revenue at the different prices and quantities that they want to sell at is going to be the number of units they sold times the price they sold each one at. And so 0 times 12 is 0, 1 times 10 is 10, 2 times 8 is 16, so forth. Now, the marginal revenue. I'm going to look at this two different ways here. So the marginal revenue, change in total revenue divided by change in output. And so the marginal revenue using the interval, if we're just going up from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, so forth, right? As you go from 0 to 1, total revenue goes from 0 to 10. And then when it goes from 10 to 16, it goes up by 6, 2, minus 2. Now, the marginal revenue at the point, which is a more accurate way to look at it, gives the marginal revenue at specific points. So really it looks at so when you look at the marginal revenue over the interval, it says it goes from 0 to 1. So basically it's the midpoint in between those. The point gives you the marginal revenue actually at a unit. Now, because our demand curves are for the most part going to be linear, at least the way we're looking at it here, we're going to have infinitely small changes in price that we can look at. So, for example, let's say that we are going from 1, instead of 1 to 2, we are going from 1.9999 to 2. Okay. And so we know with quantity is 2, the price we have to set is 8. Now, to get where it's 1.999 minus 2Q plus 12, and so equals price me minus 2 times Q plus 12, 8.0002. So if we do, so this is the, so if you do total revenue, which is going to be your quantity times your price. Now, again, marginal revenue, change in total revenue divided by change in output. So instead of looking at it by 1, we're going to look at it by 1 10,000ths of a point. So change in total revenue, 16 minus 15.996, divided by change in output, 2 minus 1.999, and that's where you see it's going to get closer to 4.002, which is closer to the quantity of 2. Now, if we keep going on this, we are going to find that the point is going to be the marginal revenue equation that we found here. The margin. So if we plug in, for example, at 1, instead of going from 0 to 1, minus 4 times 1 is minus 4 plus 12. And so the marginal revenue at 1 is going to be 8. And then for 2, minus 4 times 8, minus 4 times 2, which is minus 8, plus 12 is going to be 4. And as you can see, this 4 is very similar to what we got here instead of 6. So again, this is just finding it at a smaller interval to find it at that point. So, and then if we plug in 3, we get the marginal revenue to be 0. And then if we put in 4, it's going to be minus 4. Plug in 5, it's going to be 20 minus 8. And 6, it's going to be minus 12. Okay. Now, the marginal cost. The marginal cost, we have an equation here. It's given. And the marginal cost is just going to be 4. We're just going to say it's constant in this case. The marginal cost then, which is given then at a point, if we want to find the total cost, we have our equation here, which is 4Q plus 2. And so then our total cost is going to be 4Q plus 2, so 4 times 0 plus 2. And so you have a total cost at 2 here when you produce 0 units. And then we have 1 times 4, which is 4, plus 2 is going to be 6, and then 10, 14, 18, 22, 26. Okay. Now finally, we want to look at the profit. Profit, total revenue, minus total cost. And so our total revenue when we produce 0 units is 0, minus total cost, 2. And if we do this all the way down, here we have our profit levels. Now, as you can see here, our profit is maximized at 6, and that is where our quantity is 2, and our price is 8, and our total revenue is 16, cost 10. So how do we get there? This goes back to what we talked about also with perfect competition. But what happens is a firm is going to continue to make their profit, to continue to produce as long as they can profit on a unit. So they're going to look at things at the margin. They're going to look at the first unit. Is it profitable to make it? Yeah? Okay, let's make it. Now the second. Second's profitable. Should we make it? Yeah, let's make it. The third. So on and so forth. So when we look at this, if we were just going to focus on the margin revenue at a specific point, by producing the first unit, they're going to make 8 units of revenue. It's going to cost them 4. So they're going to make 6 additional dollars of profit. 4 additional of profit. On the second, the revenues they're going to collect on is going to be 4. Cost is also going to be 4. Okay. Not going to lose money there. Let's do it. What about the third? Well, the third, the revenue you're going to get, marginal revenue you're going to get, additional revenue you get from the third is 0. It's going to cost you 4, so you're actually going to lose $4 worth of profit. Okay, so that doesn't make sense. Now, just keep in mind here that the profit change that we're talking about is at specific points whereas this profit is talking more about these intervals that we talked about here. But in general, the profits are still going to work out the same. So as we go through, do all this, what we find is, and this is the most important part when you're talking about firms, and it's really the same concept when we talked about perfect competition, is that you maximize profits, or marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Now, if we take a look at this, let's look at it in graph form. So here we have a typical monopolies, demand, marginal cost, marginal revenue, the cost curves, revenue curves, and all that. So again, firms maximize their profits where the marginal revenue equals the marginal cost. Right. Now, this is important. At that point where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, you find one thing and one thing only. That is the profit maximizing output level. Okay. That's all you find at that point. Some people tend to make the mistake of saying, okay, well, you maximize profits where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. And so that means that this is the price right here. Okay? We're at the intersection of the two. No, it's not. So if a firm wants to maximize their profits and they want to sell a certain amount of output that they deem to be the profit maximizing amount, okay, they're going to want to tell the consumers how much to pay. And with that, consumers are going to want a certain amount. So let's say, for example, that they did decide to set the price here, where the marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Well, at that point, based on the demand, the amount that people will demand at that price is going to be over here, straight down. So what the firms want to do then is, again, they want to set a price to where people demand Q-star units because that's how many they want to sell. So what you do then, once you find that profit maximizing output level, you're going to plug that into the demand. And that is going to give you your profit maximizing price. That's the price they're going to set. Now to find how much the average cost is, you take that quantity, you plug it in your average cost, or in graph form, you go up to where it hits the average cost, and that is your average cost at the profit maximizing output level. So then your profit, which is your quantity times price minus average cost, is going to be this area in here. All right, so here is your profit. So again, this is for a monopoly maximizing their profits. Right? They're going to set where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, that is where they maximize their profits. At that point, where the two equal each other, you get your profit maximizing output level. You then take that output level and you set the price and find the average cost at it by going up in graph form to where it hits it, or by plugging it into the equations, and you get the profit maximizing price and the average cost at that level.